Good afternoon, little Mead. So we are very close to the end of the Twits by Roald Dahl. Just got the last 2 chapters. Thank you if you've joined me for the whole story. So the monkeys and the birds have finally got their revenge on the horrible Mr. and Mrs. Twit. They've managed, with some hug-tight glue, to stick everything that was on the floor onto the ceiling. So there's their upside-down living room. And there's Mr. and Mrs. Twit at the bottom, very confused. And we left them yesterday, stood on their heads because they thought they were upside down. And because they've got glue on their heads, they're now stuck tight on the floor, upside down, very confused and very uncomfortable. So we'll leave Mr. and Mrs. Twit there and see what the monkeys and birds are doing. This chapter is called The Monkeys' Escape. That evening, Muggle and his family went up to the big wood on the top of the hill. And in the tallest tree of all, they built a marvellous treehouse. All the birds, especially the big ones, the crows and the rooks and the magpies, made their nests around the treehouse so that nobody could see it from the ground. "You can't stay up here forever, you know," the roly-poly bird said. "Why not?" asked Muggle. "It's a lovely place." "Just you wait till the winter comes," the roly-poly bird said. "Monkeys don't like cold weather, do they?" "Oh, they most certainly don't," cried Muggle. "Are the winters so very cold here?" "Oh, it's all snow and ice," said the roly-poly bird. "Sometimes it's so cold a bird will wake up in the morning with its feet frozen to the bough that he's been roosting on." A bough is a branch. "Then what shall we do?" cried Muggle. "My family will be deep freezed." "No, they won't," said the roly-poly bird, "because when the first leaves start falling from the trees in autumn, you can fly home to Africa with me." "Don't be ridiculous," Muggle said. "Monkeys can't fly." "You can sit on my back," the roly-poly bird said. "I shall take you one at a time. You will travel by the roly-poly superjet, and it won't cost you a penny." Last chapter. The Twits get the shrinks. And now, here in the horrid house, Mr. and Mrs. Twit are still stuck upside down to the floor of the living room. "All your fault," yelled Mr. Twit, thrashing his legs in the air. "You're the one, you silly old cow, who went hopping around and shouting, 'We're upside down, we're upside down.'" "You're the one who said to stand on our heads so we'd be the right way up, you whiskery old warthog," screamed Mrs. Twit. "Now we'll never get free. We're stuck here forever." "You may be stuck here forever," said Mr. Twit, "but not me. I'm going to get away." Mr. Twit wriggled and squirmed, and he squiggled and he wormed, and he twisted and he turned, and he joggled and he churned, but the sticky glue held him to the floor just as tightly as it had once held the poor birds in the big dead tree. He was still as upside down as ever, standing on his head. But heads are not made to be stood upon. If you stand on your head for a very long time, a horrid thing happens, and this was where Mr. Twit got his biggest shock of all. With so much weight on it from up above, his head began to get squashed into his body. Quite soon it had disappeared completely, sunk out of sight in the fatty folds of his flabby neck. "I'm shrinking," burbled Mr. Twit. So am I, cried Mrs. Twit. Help me! Save me! Call a doctor! Yelled Mr. Twit. I'm getting the dreaded shrieks. And so he was. Mrs. Twit was getting the dreaded shrieks too. And this time it wasn't fake, it was the real thing. Their heads shrank into their necks. Then their necks began shrinking into their bodies, and their bodies began shrinking into their legs, and their legs began shrinking into their feet. And 1 week later, on a nice sunny afternoon, a man called Fred came round to read the gas meter. When nobody answered the door, Fred peeped into the house, and there he saw, on the floor of the living room, 2 bundles of old clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, and a walking stick. There was nothing more left in this world of Mr. and Mrs. Twit. And everyone, including Fred, just shouted, hooray! And that's that. That's the end of the story. They finally got their comeuppance. They finally got what they deserved. Mrs. Twit here and Mr. Twit, horrible to each other, horrible to the monkeys, horrible to the birds, killing all the birds with bird pie. So finally, they got what was coming. And that left the monkeys and the birds very happy. I hope you enjoyed that story. Now, I've got all the stories by Roald Dahl, and I would love to read all of those to you, but I'm going to have a change of author. So putting down Roald Dahl, picking up a David Walliams story. The next video is going to be me reading you Blob by David Walliams. I chose Blob because it's great. I also chose it because it's quite short. Some of the other popular stories by David Walliams that I could have chosen, like Awful Auntie or Bad Dad, Midnight Gang, Grandpa's Great Escape. There's many more. I'm reading The Beast of Buckingham Palace at the moment, but they're all so long. They're all like 400 pages, and I don't know how many story times I'm going to be doing, so I've chosen Blob. So the next video that you're going to see on YouTube is the beginning of Blob. I hope you'll join me for that story. Take care, children of Little Mead Primary. See you soon.